All right, so the elephant in the room is like, why is there a third chair? So I will get to that elephant. Daniel's here to make a very special announcement about a surprise new designer collaboration. And shortly, that designer will join us. But before we get to that, Daniel, as I mentioned, it's been 20 years since that collab with Karl Lagerfeld kind of set a new template for the industry. Looking back now, in your shoes as new CEO, why were they such a powerful tool for H&M at the time? And why did H&M decide to drop them?
First of all, thank you for having us, and thank you for having me. I think this has been a very beautiful 24 hours of different perspectives, and it's a great learning journey. So I'm really happy to be here. The idea of the guest design, I think, sits really close to the founding idea of H&M. H&M was founded in 1947 on the idea of making what's inaccessible to the many people accessible to the many. Being not for the 1%, but for the 99%, and making beauty available to those. And that's, I believe, the guest design idea was a natural development of that purpose, and that is the pinnacle of that idea is taking the most elevated design and make it accessible to a larger and wider audience. And that's why I think it became such a big success. And we had, the first one was, as you said, Karl Lagerfeld. That was 1 year before I joined H&M as an intern. I know I was standing in line in Paris for the first launch of the Karl Lagerfeld collaboration. And then a month ago, we did a celebration. After 20 years, we decided to resurface.
That's some of these.
Exactly. So these are second-hand pieces that were bought by our team and then put together so that a new generation could experience the guest designers that didn't have a chance to experience, and also to show the longevity of the garments and the designs, that you could still buy a piece of Karl Lagerfeld from 2004 and it still holds its quality. So, and then the reason why it's been dropped, it's not dropped, I think it's how you develop creative ideas and how you find new angles of creative ideas. I think this is one exciting idea of how to resurface in a second life experience, and we'll talk about later on another exciting way to sort of reignite that idea. But that's the essence.
Okay, and as you mentioned, you joined H&M as a trainee, I think 18 years ago?
Almost 20 years.
Almost 20 years ago. You're now the CEO. You've had the chance to kind of experience and observe the journey of the company. One observation that you and I have discussed, over, I think, lunch earlier this year when we met, was that somehow H&M kind of lost its way creatively. I think I told you a story of walking into an H&M store in Vancouver with my family. We were looking for something quick for my dad, who was not well. And I walked into the store, and I hadn't been to an H&M store for a while, and it felt like a lot of product. But there wasn't a lot of experience or creativity or design. This is something that you would like to bring back. Tell us why you're doubling down on creativity.
H&M is still about the promise of making what's inaccessible accessible to the many. How can we liberate everything that I think all of us in this room love about fashion, the self-expression, the creativity, it's the only art form that you wear. That, we believe, should not be limited to privileged few. It should not be about self-expression, expressing your personal style. It should not be a question of the size of your wallet, rather your own style. And being able to liberate that is about being in the intersection of creativity, fashion, and affordability. And that's what we are sort of coming back to. So I want H&M to become more of ourselves, not try to become someone else, but become more of ourselves. Because I believe the power of self-expression and making that accessible to many is more relevant than it's ever been. So what we're trying to do is to focus, simplify, reduce complexity, to put all efforts into the core promise of liberating fashion. And that starts and ends with the product and the design. So really doubling down on us having 500 creators in the team in Stockholm, having a heritage and a DNA of being a creative company, bringing that to life again and re-energizing that creativity to be able to give that to a much larger audience that otherwise wouldn't have access to it.
Yeah, and in theory, when you talked about that with me back in, I think it was April or March that we met, I understood it. But then this autumn, I started to see the rollout. And so I want to walk people through some of what you've been working on, some of the kind of concrete steps you as a leader have been taking with your 143,000 employees to kind of bring this creativity back to the center of H&M. So talk to us about this. These are some images from some major activations that you did in London, in all over the world actually, but one of them is in London in the autumn.
So re-energizing H&M has been a lot about sort of going back to our core promise, as I said. That starts and ends with product. And the fall collection that this is sort of the launch campaign for, we felt that is the best collection that we have done in a long time, and that sets a new standard and a new bar for what H&M should be. So we wanted this autumn, fall, winter launch to be a celebration of our in-house design. And then we wanted to find a way to do it that resonates with the narrative of the H&M brand. And H&M has always been close to music because music infuses fashion. It's such a strong influence on fashion. The energy you get going to a concert or to a music festival is very similar to the energy we like H&M to be, about self-expression, being who you are, find your own individual style. So we wanted to do that and mix the fashion show with the feeling and the energy of a musical performance. And then we landed on Charlie XCX as an ambassador since we believe she is a great...
Was this before or after Brat Summer?
It was before.
Then you guys were like looking into the future. Okay, because she kind of, we met Charlie.
We worked with her for a long time, so that's the reason why we...
All right, because she blew up over the summer, so your timing was kind of impeccable.
It was magical, yes.
Okay. Then we have some of the new ways you're approaching campaigns. Talk to us a bit about that.
So these are images from the fall fashion, and then I think it's from the holiday that we are just releasing. It's all about elevating product. It's putting the product at the center and making the product stand out. And I believe that is the H&M magic, being in that intersection of affordability, the best, most sort of exciting design, and sustainability. That intersection is the H&M magic, trying to make the impossible possible by making those things come to life at the same time. And that's what we want to get across with also the campaigns and what we're talking about. So product at the center, and then do what we can to elevate that product and make it really stand out.
Okay, and this next one, it's the one that kind of really blew me away. Does this look like an H&M store to you? Talk to us about the retail change. I think this is a store in Stockholm.
I believe this is the store underneath our head office, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is this what we can expect in H&M's retail environment? It reminds me, we were all here watching Kelly Wurstler last year. It has that kind of really organic, high design vibe. Like what can we expect? I'm sure this is not going to be replicated in, what was it, 4,300 stores, right? So, but how do you take this spirit and make that experience in the store more creative and experiential too?
What you can expect, I think, is the elevation of product and building an environment that puts the product on a pedestal and creates that space for exploration, self-expression, inspiration. That's how we want our stores to be all about. And I believe the store has and will continue to have such a great importance for our customers. It's still 70% of our turnover comes from the physical store. It's a space where you can fully emerge into the brand experience. It's entertainment of finding your own personal style. We can give the customer so much energy and service in the physical space. So we are raising the bar and setting the bar much higher for the assortment, but then also for the environment which we package the assortment is, even if it can be the physical store or the digital store. So we rolled out during this fall an elevated experience to 8 key cities across the globe where we really wanted to start to make the difference. We did it in New York, London, Milan, Paris, Berlin, Hamburg, Munich, and Stockholm. Stockholm mainly to raise the bar for the teams working in Stockholm. And that's the first step. And then you will see certain stores, depending on the location, they will have different experiences. So.
Okay. Before we move to our special surprise guest, I would be remiss if I didn't talk to you about kind of the interesting and challenging balance that you as a CEO of one of the largest fashion retailers in the world has to manage around sustainability. So we're talking about a business that, and as we've been discussing earlier today, the agenda for many of the CEOs we've surveyed, sustainability's fallen off of their top 3 list. You're producing volumes of clothes in huge amount. We've talked a lot about fashion waste and consumption. And how are you going to manage all of this? So you're trying to create, you're still trying to provide accessibility. You need to manage affordability. You need to introduce design and creativity. and you need to think about sustainability, which for a very long time was a big communication priority. And we've seen some data, and we did the BOF Sustainability Index, so we know that H&M has, for quite a long time, not been perfect, because no fashion company is perfect, but was one of the leaders at least. The industry as a whole, by the way, our sustainability index said everybody's late, everybody's slow, everybody's not doing enough. But H&M was one of the companies that was performing better amongst generally poor performance. Where does sustainability sit in your agenda?
First of all, thank you for asking the question. I think that it's great to come here and meet all of you, a lot of creators, to talk about the beauty of fashion, the excitement, the energy it brings. But then I think all of us have a stomach feeling, to your point, that we as an industry, we are fundamentally behind, and continuing to run the industry like we've done in the last 50 years will not work for the coming 10 years. And we see, I think we've heard over the last days, so many signs how the world is telling us that change needs to happen. So I really liked your presentation this morning. It resonated really well with Gemma. I think it paints a clear picture of the challenge you sit in as a CEO, that transformation needs to happen. Customers are not changing. They are pivoting towards solutions that are even less sustainable than the legacy. And it becomes, and also with what we've seen with the election, and one of my biggest concerns is what will happen to policies around sustainability. So it is
because regulation is critical, right? In order to get the industry to change.
If we want the industry to change, we need to have a fair playing field for how to change, and that regulation would be really important, and how it's being shaped will be really important. So in my role as a CEO, it's been about doing exactly what you said. It's how do we focus? And I believe one of the reasons I took this job is with great scale comes great opportunity to change, but also great responsibility. And that is for us looking, where do we have the biggest impact? 99% of our impact is in scope 3 emissions, meaning with our suppliers. The most important thing is working with them on the energy transition, to move from carbon-intense energy sources to do renewable energy sources. And there we need to co-invest, and we need to build long-term relationships that allow our suppliers to invest into renewable energy sources. That's the single most important, that we, as leading brands, take that responsibility in partnership with our suppliers. The second, which we are doubling down on based on the impact, is innovation of new materials. There are too few materials available today that have less impact on the planet. And here, two things are important for us where we can drive change. One is to be early on investors. So we invest through our venture arm into more than 20 startups around innovation in materials. That is, as we said, a very challenging job because it's hard to raise funding, especially in the last year for those. So we need to play an active part. But more importantly, I think, is how we help them scale. How can we be early on in taking off-take agreements that allow them to seek more financing or know that scale will come once quality and price comes to the right level. So being there, taking big off-take agreements is important. And then I think thirdly, there is an exciting opportunity in innovating in the circular economy space that is still there. I think it's great to see Winter doing really well, seeing consumer to consumer platforms starting to be profitable. We have Sellpy, which is our second-hand platform, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of the H&M Group, where we see great growth and success in Northern European markets, which is a second-hand retailer. There will come a business that is about the second life of garments, and how we can be creative, forward-leaning, and invest ahead of the curve as brands, I think, is a really important path as well. So for me, it's been to say, move away from big promises. The promises are there. Move away from symbolic actions and communication, and focus on the things that can truly make a difference. And that comes back to CO2 emissions in the supply chain. And these three areas are where we can have significant impact as a large global player. Okay.
Well, that chair's been empty for a little over 16 minutes now, so I think it's time we fill it. Should we bring out our surprise mystery guest?
Yes.
All right. Please welcome the celebrated designer, Glenn Martens, who is the creative director of Diesel, who's also been recently the creative director of Y Project, for a special announcement.
Hey. What a surprise.
I feel like Dita Von Teese coming out of the cake.
It's such a pleasure to have you here, Glenn. And when I heard this news very, very, very confidentially, I was so excited. Because I think this idea of taking design, like sophisticated, creative design like yours and making it available to more people is exciting. Tell us what you're here to announce today. What are you cooking up?
I thought it was announced.
Well, it's kind of, but maybe tell us
Let's see
how,
if we have the same opinion.
tell us how this happened. How are we here sitting on the stage? And why did you decide to do a collaboration with HandM?
I mean, it's a very long process, though. I think we started talking about it a year ago, kind of, somewhere. I mean, why I like to do it, actually, it's the same thing. I think we're all people here in fashion. We do a lot of products. I think the connection point between all of us, even the products are very different, is that we empower people. And we give the possibility with garments to make them feel strong and loved and make them feel really like, how they want to be perceived. Obviously, I think there's a whole part of fashion also, which is very much about the dream. And people are watching the dream, and it's Disneyland, you know, like they like following it on Instagram, online, or whatever. But that dream sometimes can also be empowerment. And I think, thanks to HandM, all this creative extravaganza that is very clear to my tone of voice can actually also bring much more happiness to everybody. And I think that's why I wanted to do it, because I really felt it was important to give a bit of this dream to reality.
Yeah. So for your fans, Glenn, you know, people who follow your work, they'll know your work from Y Project. They'll know your work from Diesel. I know you're still very early in the creative process. The collection won't launch until sometime next year. Can you just give us? Do you have anything in your head about, like, you know when Carl did Carl, you kind of knew what it was going to be. When Margiela did it, but in your head, have you started to think about what it is creatively?
Well, it's quite designed already, though. It takes quite I think we have a big fitting in 2 weeks in Stockholm. It's actually quite finished almost, let's say. The collection plan is quite there. But it's very me. It's very quirky, experimental. It's really like creating little monsters, and which I really enjoy. And I think, you know, it's this typology of garments that at Y Project, for example, I couldn't really bring to life in reality on the streets because they're so complicated. And with the facilities that we have together with you, thanks to you, we can actually create these monsters and make them.
So we can expect real fashion.
You're gonna have a lot of fun people on the streets. it's gonna be.
But to your point, I think this is so exciting to see HandM after 75 years as a platform for leveraging creativity. I think that you can see HandM as your toolbox, your platform to get your creativity, your monsters to spread across the globe, all the way from Osnabrück in Germany to Columbus, Ohio, by leveraging our platform. I think that's really exciting. That makes us really sort of proud to give you that opportunity.
That's amazing. You know, just now, Daniel was talking about the scale of the business. You know, you've never designed for an audience this big before. You know, a mass audience. No. You know, how did that inform the way that you're thinking about this almost completed collection that I haven't yet seen?
Yeah, well, it didn't really impact that much, though. I think it was very clear from HandM that they had carte blanche. So it was really, I think they really came for me because they wanted to have something quite wild. I mean, it kind of naturally builds up as a collection plan. But yeah, no, it's I mean, we have something for everybody. But that's, of course, I mean, I've been in this industry for 15 years. I work at Diesel. I know how collection plans are built, so it quite felt
that part felt
very
natural.
Easy. Yeah, it felt very easy.
The team is having a lot of fun. I hear a lot of good things from sort of your collaboration with the team.
It was very secret, though.
What's the process been like for you, Glenn? Because like the interface with a big machine, corporate machine like HandM, like you're usually used to working in smaller.
Well, I'm usually used to work with French or Italians, so okay, working with Northern people is brings a bit of freshness. So it's
what part of that is fresh?
A little bit more structured. So it was very easy in that way.
And Glenn, we're almost out of time, but if there's one thing you hope that like customers around the world will feel when they have the opportunity to buy into your collections, maybe they couldn't afford them before at Y Project or Diesel. Like, what do you hope?
The happiness. I really, that's for me the most important thing I think about fashion is the happiness. You know, bring people joy and empowerment and fun. And I hope it's when they're going to wear one of our garments that they're going to feel like a little party. You know, and I think that's really what is the beauty of fashion, in my opinion, of course.
Any concluding thoughts from you, Daniel?
No, I think that is also really inspiring for us. I think if I can steward this company in the future to get more customers to feel that energy, that joy, that excitement of sex expression and joy of fashion in our collections, in our physical stores, in digital, I feel I've been really successful. And being at that intersection of making that affordable, I think it's such an exciting and very difficult mission to be on.
Well, I am really excited the HandM collab is back, and I am super grateful that you both agreed to make this announcement here. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.